A couple of years ago I needed to cut some circles using my hot wire cutter. I looked at the shifting lens circle jig, but instead of buying one I just made my own out of the back of a drawing book and a nail. It's ugly as sin, but it does the job well and I was pretty happy with it. Then I saw the new circle cutting jig 2.0. This one has a couple of excellent features which I wouldn't be able to replicate easily, so I went ahead and ordered one. This is not a sponsored review. I bought this with my own money, although Gerard from Shifting Lens is a friend, and I'm a big fan of his work, so there may be a bit of bias. Also, since I'm recording this on his birthday and he's an absolute champion of the community, happy birthday, sir. When I opened up the package, I didn't expect there to be so many parts. Also, the instruction leaflet is long, so I could see this being a bit intimidating. On the other hand, only 3 of the pages in the leaflet are about assembly. The rest are instructions for use. Assembly was in fact surprisingly easy considering the number of parts. The only part where you need to be extra careful is when you're gluing the runner to the base plate to make sure everything is aligned correctly. But you're literally gluing 2 pieces of wood together, so it's really no big deal. When you're gluing the face of the base plate on, you need to make sure you don't get any glue on the area where the slides go. Just avoid putting in too much glue everywhere and you'll be fine. Before you glue the accessories together, it's a good idea to give them a test fit to make sure they fit together properly. In my case, I found that some of the keys on the column jig were too tight, so I gave them a very light sanding so they would go together snugly, without needing too much pressure. Once you're satisfied, you can apply a little PVA glue and reassemble. Now, being an absolute wit, I managed to glue the base of the column jig upside down. The places where the nails go have these circles cut in them, so the head doesn't stick out. Those should always be to the outside. Luckily, PVA has a reasonably long working time, so I was able to take it apart and put it in the right way around. Some of the glue must have already had time to take up, because reassembly was a lot more difficult the second way around. After trying to work it in for some time, I decided to choose a different approach. I chose vinyls. Eventually that was sorted out. This one's on me because it was entirely a lapse of attention on my part. If the keys were asymmetric, this would not have happened, but with the top and bottom being clearly different, I think I have to give Gerard a pass on this one. The dome cutter went together a lot more easily, with no incident. The glue needs to cure, so let me take a second to thank my lovely patrons who help make videos like this possible. I dug out some expanded polystyrene to make some test cuts. I wanted to get a feel for the tool and make sure I hadn't messed it up, so I prefer to use the free packaging foam rather than good XPS. The jig goes into the side track of the hot wire cutter. I made sure that the wire was zeroed in between the 2 arrows on the plate. The basic circle cutter works perfectly, but what I really want to talk about are these stop blocks you can put in the track. You don't need to eyeball anything, just drop a stop block on the measurement you need and it will stop the slide where you need it to. This is fantastic for repeating cuts, and it's a great feature. You can get increments of up to 5mm using the stops, but if you need a small increment, it's easy to use a small piece of card as a shim to pad the block. The column jig was the one I was most worried about, because I had to use a bit of force when assembling it. In fact, the first experiments were less than stellar, as I accidentally ended up with a tapered cylinder. I had a quick call with Gerard and he quickly pointed out what went wrong. The heat setting I was using was too high, and as it turned out my wire was just slightly off perfect vertical. I readjusted the wire, tried again on a lower heat setting, and there it was. There's a bit of flesh left down one side where I started to pull back a little too early, but it otherwise looks good. I'm impressed this jig still works after the botched assembly, but that's the level of design quality I've come to expect from shifting lands. Once again, the dome cutting jig was a star performer and came through with no problems. I only used a few cuts here, but even this half-assed test gave a pretty good result. Couple more cuts and some sandpaper will give a perfect dome. The kit also includes some splitting jigs which can be used to section cylinders, but I won't go over these because there's no assembly involved and their operation is super straightforward. Instead, if you're interested in seeing what you can do with these, I leave a link to the Shifting Lands channel here. Everything was working right. The assembly was a lot less traumatic than I had feared, but still, there was something missing. Oh. Much better. Say hello to Pippin the penguin. If you're into foam crafting and have a tabletop wire cutter, I strongly recommend this jig. The accessories are excellent and the base jig itself is great to work with. Those stop blocks are a fantastic piece of design that make it so much easier to work with. Easily 2 thumbs up. Now, excuse me while I go cut a bunch of circles to build a thing. Bye!